Hey you guys, how you doing? Hope you're having a great day. As you can see, we're climbing again. Once we get to the top here, we're gonna do a sit down. I'm gonna talk about a topic. It's gonna be another one of those touchy topics, y'all, but it's one of those things we're gonna have to talk about. And let me go ahead and put all my energy, get to the top first. So let's go. Well, as you can see, we made it to the top here once again. And so glad to have you guys joining with me, on these walks. Really appreciate it. But anyway, let's get down to business. And something I've been wanting, I've talked about in times past, but I want to put it all in one video so that it's very crystal clear and it really allows you to focus on this particular topic, which I think is pretty important. And this is just an observation that I've had over some years now. And I'll start off with this. There was a woman who left a comment recently on our channel, and like I say all the time, you can agree or disagree. It doesn't even matter. That's what the whole comment section is for, for us to kind of talk things out in a respectful manner, and it's cool, but when it becomes disrespectful, or if you lead off with a lie, you're going to be challenged on that. I mean, it's just as plain and simple, just as I'm sure you would challenge someone if they came through your door with a lie or a false accusation. And so that's what I did. She came through the door immediately making a false accusation in that, but she bundled it as a question. And what she did was she said, so you're saying that that we should throw out the Bible? Are you just saying we need to throw out the Bible? And I was like, no, we've never said that. And then this is under a video where my wife and I both sat down together and we actually meticulously went through kind of like where we are on this journey, so to speak, and just went through just methodically, just everything, so that it was very clear. We also had provided time for people to ask questions. If you watch that entire video, you'll know at the end of the video, we provided time for people to ask questions. Anytime we have videos like that, we always do that. And it's funny, anytime we provide that opportunity, there's not too many questions, but we sure get a lot of comments and slick talk, afterwards. And it's just what it is. So she makes this accusation, but bundles it as a question. And we see that a whole lot. And, but then when you're challenged on it, the person will immediately come back and say, well, no, I wasn't saying that. I was just simply asking a question. And I said, this is so slick. You're trying to be slick, but we see right through it. And the analogy I used, I said, that's like me asking you, so you're overweight because you're eating a lot of fried chicken and watermelon. Like, why would I lead off with something like that? That's called a presupposition. And you're presupposing that the reason already in your question that that this person is overweight because they eat fried chicken and watermelon or whatever. I'm just throwing that out as an analogy, right? That's a presupposition. You're pre-assuming something, but you're bundling it in a question. And I find our people will do this a lot. And so, but when you get called on it, then you want to go back and pivot. I told you we are the master pivoters out there, and say, well, no, it was just a question. I was just asking. No, you weren't. And so anyway, long story short, so I informed her. I said, well, the first thing I asked was what I always ask people when they do questions like that. I said, well, did you watch the entire video? And she came back and said, well, yes, I did. And I said, no, sis, you didn't watch the whole video, because there are many videos that we have said. Number one, in the video, not one time have we said or alluded to that people should throw out their Bibles. We've never said that. Never, ever, ever. I would challenge anybody on that. We've never told people that they need to throw out their Bibles. In fact, we've told people you need to keep your Bibles because you need to keep every receipt. And so, no, we've never said that. There are many videos where I have said repeatedly, do not throw out your Bibles. And so I basically called her out on that. I said, no, we never said that. And so if you look at the comment, the post, I want to say it's probably like 12, 13, maybe even more comments deep, where she's going back and forth and still trying to kind of backpedal a little bit. And then finally she admitted that she really did not look at the entire video. And she was like, okay, I'm sorry. And then she apologized or whatever. And I said, okay, fine. I said, but look at all of this wasted time that we had to go through just to get you to this point. You know what I'm saying? And so, but she couldn't accept that reality. Like what I did was now take a look, because what I was saying was step back, take a look at all of this wasted time. All you had to do was watch the entire video. And then if you had any questions, you could ask, or any comments, you can ask or comment, you know, but you came here with a false accusation, and I had to literally spend off and on all day trying to get to the point where it's unveiled that you're acknowledging that you didn't even watch the video. You know what I'm saying? Now, that's just one person. And then on top of that, at the end of it, because she was saying, you know, I apologize, you should forgive. It was something like that. And I say, sis, I'm not in my emotions like that. I'm really not. I say, because while we were going back and forth throughout the day, I was actually doing other work. So I'm not in my emotions. This ain't personal for me. It's none of that at all. I was just trying to get you to see your own error. That's all I was trying to do. But, you know, no, I'm not in my emotions. And then instead of her just walking away and just letting it be, she then says, well, you know, I'm bitter. I'm a bitter man. I'm a bitter man because you came in the door making a false accusation. Okay, so anyway, so you see all of this, right? But this is just one person. There are many stories that I can point to you. Many, many stories. Let me give you another story too. Trust me, this is all leading somewhere, okay? So just trust me, just follow me on this. As you know, we have a group, a loosely kind of knit group, and it's on the Threema platform. The purpose of the group is simple, is to gather together like-minded people as it pertains to, you know, preparing for things such as like natural disasters, right? But also, you know, support as in tangible support, like if someone is sick, if someone needs food, if someone needs shelter, that kind of thing. You know, we put together like a group and we divided it up in, you know, by state or by region, that kind of thing, right? And y'all have already heard the stories where, you know, the amount of work that we had to put in and try to keep it stable, because you had numbers of people that came in initially with different agendas, with this and outwardly telling us in our face that basically they were there to create their own groups, you know, and it was just a whole bunch of stuff, you know, that was going on. And so we had to go through this process where we just had to sort people out, because it was like, man, this is crazy. It's like how people were just coming in and literally just immediately, I told you there was one individual that literally came in and somehow collected a lot of the email addresses. This was like early on, and created their own group. Like, we're copying. We had people making duplicates of our groups and then spinning them off and creating their own groups, like immediately out the gate. And so this is the kind of bull crap that you deal with, especially when you're dealing with your own people. But it's true, you know. But not everybody was like that. We still have a lot of great people who aren't about that, and are very, very dear, and are very, very helpful and loving and all of that. So that's not everybody. But we did have to go through a time where you just had to weed some people out. Well, there was this one case where, you know, in that process during that time, I had a woman contact me because she disagreed with something that we were doing. And But the aggressiveness that she was coming at me on, it was, I'll have to say, is very masculine in nature, because it was very aggressive. Like, she would not let go. And it wasn't the issue that the thing that she had issue with, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Like, it really, in the grander scheme of things, it really wasn't that big of a thing. It was like, okay, let's lay it out. Here's all the facts. And that's it. It's no big deal. You know what I'm saying? Because again, what we were establishing, it was not a church. It's not a ministry. I'm not the bishop, and my wife isn't the first lady. It was not set up like that at all. This wasn't some kind of backdoor group where I can sell our stuff to them and all that. Nah, it was none of that. It was just simply people coming together, and we were really trying to push people into developing their own solutions. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, we didn't want to be in a position where Nicole and I and others, we have to be present in every meeting that everybody has. I don't want to do that. You're adults. You see the needs that are right around you. Come up with some solutions. And then what we want to do is to actually be kind of a support system to see that done. If you actually saw our org chart that we had set up, Nicole and I were actually at the bottom. It wasn't at the top. We were actually at the bottom. And we intentionally did that because we want to see people develop things on their own. But anyway, so this sister, she kept going hard. I mean, just over and over. And I was like, what is driving this woman like this? And so finally, I knew she was married, and I said, well, what does your husband have to say about all of this? Because I'm hearing a lot from you, but what's your husband got to say, right? And so finally, I said, because I would like to hear his input. And so finally, she went ahead and let him know, well, he's going to call you, or he's going to reach out to you or whatever. And he eventually did. And not surprisingly, the tone was very different with him, because for him, it was kind of like, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it was. He was more or less, it was a very different tone. It was a more lighter, more friendlier tone. But the tone was kind of like, he didn't say this, but it was kind of like, well, you know how these women can be. It was kind of like that. But see, I wasn't buying. I was like, wait a minute, man, this woman was going extra hard on me, man. It's a little bit more than that. And then later on in the conversation, he tells me that, well, she's like overdue. She's pregnant. She's and so, her emotions are running high right now on a lot of things and all that. So I sat back and I said, so wait a minute. So you knew all of this. Your wife right now is at, her focus right now should be delivering that baby, right? But instead, you're letting her vent off on another man on some stuff that it's not even that big of a deal, but you're allowing her to vent off on another man on something. Now, fortunately, she got the right one, because see, for me, I'm not going to take it too far. I'll just cut it off and keep it moving. But if she got the right one, it would have probably escalated into something a lot worse. You know what I'm saying? So, but I was like, dude, okay, I understand, I get that, but shouldn't that be something you and your wife sit down and kind of discuss and help her through that and have her focus on delivering this baby? Why are you allowing her to vent off on another man on something that could have been kind of cleared up in the house? And so I'm sharing this because this speaks of a much deeper thing that I've observed, my wife too, but I'm speaking for myself, when we were in the whole Hebrew world. And that is that it's the Hebrew world in a nutshell is a kingdom of over emotion. It's made up of over emotion and is largely driven by women. And that's just facts. That's not, it's just what it is. And it's not just the fact that it's women, but it's women who in many cases have some very serious issues. And let me just kind of get right down to it. What I have seen over the years is that you have several ministries out here, and I'm talking about within the Hebrew space. Even though they're led by men, they have their underlings. They have a lot of their supporters, the support base, are women, And these women, oftentimes, they will get together on side chat groups and on Facebook, on other platforms. And what will happen is that let's say whatever ministry that they follow, if it's a male-led or a man-led ministry, let's say, or men-led ministry, because this is the same patterns I would see in the church. The preacher or the moray, whatever, will say something slick about another ministry, right? But they'll kind of do it very they'll say it in a way where everybody knows who they're talking about, but they won't really say it, the name or anything like that. But everybody knows who's being discussed. And then what happens is the underlings, if you will, like I said, who are mostly female, will then take that as a cue to start going in and start chatting it up and saying, yeah, because he's right, because I noticed this about him, and I've noticed this about them, and I noticed that, or whatever. And then the next step of what happens is it starts showing up on that target's chat or their comment section. I've seen this with myself. I've seen this with other people. The patterns are so clear and obvious. I mean, one could easily do a study on this, and it would be, and you can do a blueprint on it, because it's the same patterns that you see in the church that now you see it in the Hebrew world as well. So it's a few ministries out here that are led by men who oftentimes they themselves are broken, and they are leading mostly women who they are in turn low key getting them gassed up to start attacking other people. And so, and this is what, and it's unfortunate, but it's very true. This is something I've seen quite often. So anyway, just going back to, the first example I gave you, I sat back, going back to the question that I had for this woman that I was going back and forth with. And I don't do that too often, but I do it sometimes just as an object lesson. Because I told her, I said, keep talking, because this is going to be a great example for a video that I'm planning on doing. And so again, going back to the original question is, how much time was wasted with all of this? And what could have been done with that time? So my question to you is this: if you are part of any particular ministry, it could be Hebrew, it could be whatever, it doesn't matter. It could be a Christian group, it doesn't matter. My question to you is this: in the last 50 years, what has the church tangibly built? Now, I'm starting with Christians now. I'm starting with the church now. What tangibly has the church built besides church buildings? Okay, I want you to really think about this. Okay? And, I know that churches sometimes can be, they can feed the homeless, or, they can help, children or whatever. But I'm talking about infrastructure. I'm talking about where infrastructure that can hold up a community, meaning things such as a bank, a real bank. I ain't talking about one that's, I'm talking about a real bank, right? And I think if you look hard enough, I'm sure you'll find one that has done something like that. A bank is one. Policing, self-policing, grocery stores, a network of farmers, growers, producers, computer IT people. What kind of work has the church has done in the last 50 years that could lend itself to helping the greater Black community pretty much live off grid, if you understand what I'm saying, in the last 50 years? Or has the church pretty much pointed to a hope and a wish that the government is going to fill in that gap? Okay, so that's the church. Okay, so we got the church. I want the church people to think on that. Now for our Hebrew people. Within the last 50 years, what has the Hebrew world actually produced? Okay, I want you to think about this now. So we went with the Christians and the Hebrews. Both of these, I say, will tie in one and the same when I'm about to ask you next. When you look at the greater world, when you look at these different cultures, you'll see that these various cultures out here have contributed things in the area of arts, significant contributions in the area of arts, in the area of science, in the area of farming, in the area of engineering, in the area of architecture, computer science. I already mentioned science. So these different cultures have contributed these things that many people are benefiting from today. When we look at the church, when we look at the Hebrew world, what have they contributed? What have you contributed to these areas? In the area of literature, what substantially has been contributed in these areas, in the area of art, science, literature, architecture, farming, research, that kind of thing? Because when I look at these spaces, when I look at the Hebrew space, what I do see is a lot of back and forth, a lot of arguing, a lot of nitpicking and things like that. But when it comes to the area of innovation that can support a real community, it's not there. And, I know some people hearing this right now were already looking for ways to pivot out of these questions, but these are very direct and very specific questions. A while back, a long time ago, I heard someone say, religion is something that makes you dumb. And I used to take a great offense at that a while back. But now I do see the truth in that. Because the real innovators that you see out here aren't really people in the Hebrew space. They're not Christians in many ways. They're people who basically are in spaces where they're free thinkers. You can be a free thinker and also be of a certain persuasion too. But in that persuasion, a lot of times, what will happen is they'll put a lot of limits on you, on what you can and can't do. Because what a lot of these persuasions will do is say, if you don't bow down to this, or if you don't do this, and every innovation you come up with is of the devil, is off, is weird, is crazy, whatever. But there's no innovation that we can actually point to when it comes to, when we look at the Hebrew space, when we look at the Christian space, there's no innovation, none. But there is a lot of people running their mouths. There are a lot of people that are backbiting and gossiping and things like that. And what a lot of times these groups will tell each other is that, well, that's just kind of how it is. But one day the sky is going to open up. The sky is going to open up, and he's going to come back, and he's going to make everything clear. He's going to make people who hate themselves all of a sudden mysteriously begin to love each other again. We've been telling each other that for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But we haven't even taken the first steps to even do that ourselves. You understand what I'm saying? Meanwhile, people are out here constantly innovating. They're creating things and all of that. One of the things I wanted to do, I just needed time for, is I was actually looking to teach a class on building computers, for example. And just taking a little that I know and teaching, children on how the basics of building a computer. I'm talking about things like that. And I listen to a lot of these people that are out here in these spaces. They spend more time going at each other, attacking one another, making these false accusations against one another, than actually sitting down and actually innovating anything. This is why in these spaces, in the Christian space and the Hebrew space, you don't see a lot of men, do you? Because, see, real men aren't going to waste time crying about what other men said about them. Real men, we're designed and created to create, to innovate, to discover, to build. That's what we're created to do. And if we're not being challenged in those areas, then the men are going to leave. In fact, in these spaces, you'll see a lot of men have left. And this is why a lot of times what we encounter is that it's really the women who you see who have the loudest voices in these spaces when it comes to the spiritual stuff and all of that. Because the men are like, I don't see the connection between what you're talking about and actually building something. I want to build something. I want to do something. I want to make a real tangible difference. But if all y'all doing is gossiping and talking about this channel and that channel and this channel or whatever, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. You understand? So this is where we are. And it's, like I said, again, it's very unfortunate. And so our focus on this channel when it comes to innovation is we are constantly, you know, we have Samba Tree, of course. We're Samba Tree. We're not just selling things, but we're actually researching and developing our own products as well. Anyway, so I hope what I said in this video, there's something in this video that you got that really causes you to think, really causes you to course correct or whatever. And that's it. But we're going to stay focused on doing what we've been doing and going to continue to do that and encourage other people to do likewise. But at the same time, we do not have time for any kind of foolishness, for people who want to gossip and talk and all of that stuff. You can stay there, or you can pick up a shovel, pick up a hammer, pick up whatever and start building something tangible. Because until you do that, nobody's listening to you. You're not moving any needles, and the world doesn't really care too much about what you have to say or do, you know, and that's really what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you again soon. And the only reason why people in these spaces always are bent on talking about the destruction of America and America's going to burn, America's going to come down, is because this is all they know to do. The only thing they know how to do is to tear down other people, to tear down other things that are progressive. That's all they know how to do. Their whole life is committed to tearing things down and tearing people down. And so it is reflected in their spirituality. If your spirituality doesn't have a component of innovation and building things, then it's just nothing but destruction. That's all it is. You add nothing to the gene pool. You add nothing to innovation. You add nothing to building up other people. Only thing you have to offer is telling people that the country that they live in or the world that they live in is going to be destroyed and burnt down and fire and all of that stuff. But in terms of building stuff, you had nothing to offer. Our people, many of our people love to cosplay these, you know, ancient cultures, you know, who oftentimes did build things and did develop stuff and innovate, but it doesn't translate into the real world, you know, and especially with this whole thing with AI imagery. You see this a lot on social media where they show, you know, people love to show like, this is what we did, this is what the ancient Israelites really look like, and, you know, this is what the ancient whatever look like. But okay, they big and strong and they did all right, they did all that stuff, but okay, what are you doing? You know, what are you building? What have you built? Or are you just not doing anything but just talking about it?